Hi, what's up? I changed my angle yet again because I'm struggling with lighting. There's like sun exposure and everything coming through, so bear with me. Where, guys, if at all you were checking out the previous part, please actually go and look at the previous parts to gauge your bearings. The shirt is so creased, but I don't care. Where have you ever seen a criminal country, a narco state or a mafia state, having excellent statistics governmentally, where citizens on the ground are really happy, where basically there is success of the economy at all? Like anywhere where there is theft, okay, anywhere where there is theft, there will be a decimation of the economy. When you keep on voting for politicians that pocket money and whatnot, there is no way that a country can succeed. South Africa is a byproduct of wickedness, umthakathi and all that jazz, and corrupt politicians. The country is suffocating, it is dying, it is basically breathing its last, kicking the last kicks of a dying horse because of the level of corruption on the ground. Like, if you could successfully just get a woman fired that did nothing wrong and then have her entire career decimated, then you could add a multiplier to that and make sure that all the honest people in an organization are extracted. And when that's the case, anything goes, anything flies. When a manufacturer can, not a manufacturer, but a reseller can go on right ahead and literally put a triple markup, triple or quadruple, like 400%, 500%, 1000% markup on a product, there is no future for an economy like that. We all know that the top 1% of the world holds literally the bulk of the wealth of the whole entire globe. That's a fact. We also know that those people anybody who owns a car, anyone who is able to eat 3 healthy meals a day, anybody that has got like a job, just a basic 9 to 5, they make up for literally the top maybe 10% of the Earth's population. So if most of us are frankly here on this entire globe unable to make ends meet, if most of us don't have 3 healthy meals a day, if most of us don't drive vehicles, if most of us don't have our own homes, if most of us are sharing apartments with 10,000 other people, if most of us are barely even eating right, like I said earlier, then where is the scalable business model that makes any sense at all, that is serving of an entire country, never mind global population? Where in the world is it? In hyperinflating product prices. You know, I think it's dumb, frankly. I find it so incredibly dumb. Like, scalable business models have worked for the longest amount of time in history. Humanity is the worst. Like, the way that they shoot themselves in the foot, I don't get it. They just don't learn from their mistakes. When you price something low, you get more and more people purchasing it, and it can actually end up making you a lot more money than an expensive product. Look, for instance, at Fenty clothing, not beauty. Yeah, Rihanna. Le Ivy Park, yeah, Beyonce. They priced those clothes to literally cater to just the elite, and both brands of designer clothing failed because they were trying to sell their clothing, albeit being new on the market, at basically the level or the height of Gucci or Armani, and expected that people are going to flood to their products when they were also marketing to the regular Jane and the regular Joe on the street. Most young professionals, which is what it is that they were targeting, like young people from the ages of like 18 to 25 to 35, most of them can't afford to buy a shoe for $400. They can't afford to buy a coat, a jacket for $450, $500, $1,000, and yet they market it to these people who are still starting out in their careers. So Pep basically does better than Beyonce's Ivy Park. So does Akamen's do better than Rihanna's Fenty Beauty. I'm not saying go as Rihanna and price your products basically at the range of the low income community, but if you've got fans, your fans of which for the majority of the time are these 18 to 25 year olds, then you need to cater your prices unto the 18 to 25 year old demographic that is largely the poorest basically on the planet. The poorest on the planet. So you fail. You're not scaling, you're not catering according to scale, you're not taking into consideration the 4 P's of marketing: price, product, what is this? What are the 4 P's? Who cares? Whatever, you can figure them out. If at all you're not taking into consideration all of the factors that are involved in getting your marketing or your product to actually do well, you're gonna flounder. These are basic business principles. Basic business principles. So in the same way that Fenty did clothes and Ivy Park, yeah, Beyonce failed, so too can you trust South Africa that the strategy of yours of hyperinflating prices of things that are catering to a market of human beings that some of them don't even have their first jobs, then you can forget about in the long run making any real money or staying aloft as a business. Oxy, for instance, is obviously a brand that is targeted towards teenagers. Everybody knows that. Ever since I was growing up, I've always known about Oxycutum, getting rid of zits, pimples. And then you go and you grab an Oxy product and you double the price. You double the price for something that somebody that is, first year university, struggling to make ends meet, eating noodles every day at university, and you expect that person to take $100 out of their budget and buy an Oxy product. Or you expect parents that are already trying to feed 5 other kids to go and deal with the adolescent acne issue of her 17-year-old by literally buying the same product for double the price. I mean, I know how it's just flat out like miserly, stingy my mom was when I was growing up. I had to pinch imali to try and see what can I get to deal with this pimple from my own allowance that was barely recognizable. It was, my cent that were falling out of my hand. So when Oxy goes and doubles the price of a product on a teenager that has got to budget based on the parent's allowance of which does not increase based on predatory pricing of the pharmaceuticals industry, you are dealing with a teenager that's going to have to come up with an alternative option to deal with their acne because they can't afford Oxy products anymore. It's dumb. It's absolutely dumb. And so whatever it is that South Africa is doing in hyperinflating prices that are for the end consumer that is generally not that wealthy, and when the world at large in totality is also pricing things in a way that caters to the top freaking 1% of the earth or the top 10% of the earth, then you can understand that these businesses are going to fall. That's why I get it. The next industrial revolution is going to come from Christians. It's going to be in the millennial reign of Jesus Christ. You are not making sense. The Lord never intended for this world to be unattainable. Its resources, they're supposed to be spread out among all of us. There are almost 8 billion people on the earth, and there are a whole bunch of global elites claiming that there are too many people on the earth. They are also emitting too much carbon, and there's not enough food for all of us. When if you were to look at how much food like people like me throw away on the daily, how many bones of chicken that are still full of meat are thrown away on the daily that are perfectly edible. If you were to go to look at the dustbin of McDonald's, how it is that there's like full Big Macs in there. How also there are regulations in organizations. There are regulations in food industry companies that they cannot allow their staff members to take certain food. Like when I was working at MTN, they every so often when we would have like breakfast, or there would be some meeting where there'd be like muffins just outside. If at all we did not eat all of those muffins, if we did not take all those muffins, the kitchen staff said that they were not allowed to take them. Literally, like I remember having a conversation with one person on a Sebetsago canteen, go cafeteria, and they told me that, do you know that all of this food that we are making for you guys for lunch, if you don't finish it all, we have to throw it away. We cannot take it home. It's law. What the heck is that? Like, you can feed me, and just 2-3 hours later, a person that has got less money than me, earns less than me, goes to a family that has got less than me, cannot take all these muffins home and feed them. If they get caught, they could get fired. And yet they are among the bottom 90% of the earth's population. There is enough food to feed literally every lost soul on the earth if you were just to look at the amount of food that is perfectly good that is getting thrown away every single day. Those are the inefficiencies that Christ is looking at the earth concerning. All of these claims that there's famine in Africa, which there is indeed, but South Africa, for instance, has had a drought for very many years now, yet people like me still eat. Go and look at the book of Genesis. What happened back in the day before systems, industry, basically where industrial revolutions made everything convenient such that you could still access water despite there being a drought in the land. Whereas back in the day, if there was a drought, it drank up all of your river water and you were not about to get given that water from any other reservoir. You either had it in your backyard or the brook dries out for Elijah and he has to walk miles upon miles to get to the widow at Zarephath that he might get water again. That's how it used to be back in the day. But then the industrial revolutions of this world created irrigation, piping, plumbing, created possibility for us to get tap water and to also get that water from other provinces, other cities, other countries, if at all it's not available in our country. For instance, we used to provide in the 90s electricity, Eskom, which is currently now choking it up a storm, to our neighboring countries. So it's not available in other countries, we will sell it to other countries. Yes, so that's what industrial revolutions did. It made sure that even if a country claims to be in a drought, people can still drink water every day, shower every day, do whatnot they can every single day. The same thing is true for countries that are in a drought and so therefore cannot grow crop. You will still find on the shelves of that same company's FMCG stores, apples, fruits, basically looking as if though it's a thriving agricultural landscape. Whereas no, it's all about imports, it's all about exports, it's about trading, it's about working with each other as countries to make sure sure that when one goes dry, the other is okay. Basically the model of Joseph in the book of Genesis, when there was a famine that nearly killed all of Israel. The Lord made sure that there was plenty in Israel, not in Israel, but in Egypt, through Joseph's like basically business strategy. And so all of God's people were fed during a famine. So the industrial revolutions of this world have basically made out of the world at large hubs of Egypt across the world, making sure, or at least it ought make sure, that there are countries that even when they endure droughts for years should not go hungry, and they can also afford to price very low the products of those countries. They can also create jobs, and yet there are people, entire people, literally their kids are dying from starvation and hunger when this is not even necessary, because the world has got so many iffy issues. They've got so many issues with like what is this, trading with each other, talking with each other. They're always fighting, scratching one another's eyeballs out, and in the interim people are literally starving to death when there's so much food being thrown away in the US, when people in the United States of America can afford to get like fat like Lizzo and claim they're healthy, and yet there are human beings at a fraction of the size of Lizzo that are dying from hunger when Lizzo is that fat. Like what in the world under heaven is that? That's an inefficiency on a global scale that God is very displeased with. There is more than enough food on earth for everybody, and yet they claim that there is a global food crisis, which there is, but it's what, man-made. It's man-made. Like for instance, the supply chain issue in the United States of America is entirely man-made. For such a hefty industrialized thriving economy to have supply chain issues, to have emptiness on supermarket shelves, it makes it obvious that this is a Hegelian dialectic type planned disaster to try and rescue the day rock up. That's the level of wickedness that is out here in these streets on the floor. So since South Africa is also starting to show exorbitant prices on the shelves in a country that is not the wealthiest in the world, if anything it's among the poor, when they are inflating prices the way that they're inflating them for things like cameras, for things like skincare, for things like even bread, when they are inflating prices that ridiculously, they're basically saying, I'm sorry, I'm going to create out of certain South African citizens those that are stranded in the Tigray region of Ethiopia. I am going to punch certain South Africans. I'm going to starve them, and I'm also going to make sure that some of them can't get their skincare on fire. And so I'm going to make sure that those that do videos trying to make an online income through YouTube, I'm going to make sure they can't get the cameras that they need, even though they're starting out. Like literally, this whole market of vlogging, blogging and whatnot, it tends to also be very heavily sought after by the youth of which are still trying to make it. Like some of them don't even have their first jobs. Some of them have to go and ask dad for $500, and here it is that you're pricing a camera that they can use to vlog at 4,000 rands. Where is a student at Wits that has just got like a middle income lifestyle, maybe even lower than that? Where are they going to get 4,000 rands for camera, a basic entry level camera to do good vlogs that they can indeed start to make money in a way that's going to benefit their economy? And so therefore, if more people are employed, even if it's within their own personal capacity, I don't need their self-employed, if more people are employed, the economy will automatically recover. So South Africa is shooting itself in the foot by like doing what it is that they're doing. I've got issues with that. If they allowed me to get my camera, they allow all other South Africans that are blogging to get their cameras, and so therefore likely and so therefore are more likely to be given an opportunity to monetize their YouTube channels, and so therefore bring money into South Africa from the international market, by the way, which YouTube is. And South Africa is refusing to let that happen. YouTube is another story for another day. It's another monster, another evil little menacing beast that we are going to not talk about for today. Because there are so many other extraneous factors. I'm trying to make these points within a vacuum, leaving all other things equal. YouTube is evil, but all things equal, it is a form of income for many South African youth, and yet you are preventing us from buying cheap cameras from AliExpress. What in the world is going on? You're forcing us to go and purchase something for 4,000 rands. You are making sure that the only people that can continue blogging are these people that have already made it celebrities, or like an online like a YouTuber that's been on YouTube for 20 years already, and so they've already got like a nice little base. Everybody else that wants to start out, you can forget it. These are called barriers to entry. And you want to improve your economy, your young people cannot be self-employed. Do you know what a person who has a thriving YouTube channel can do? They can hire a scriptwriter, they can hire a video editor, they can hire so many other people. So that's basically student jobs for 4 or 5 people. Put a multiplier on that, and you have basically reduced the unemployment rate of the youth in this country by perhaps a fraction of a percentage, but it's better than what is currently sitting at now. And we all know that the unemployment rate of South African youth is just like violent. It's ridiculous. I think it's the worst in the world, if not number 2. So by enabling online opportunities for youth in this country to work, I guess not in the mainstream, like corporate or whatever, South Africa, since they can't, get in, a lot of them are not getting interviewed and whatnot. When Umnyumtana just decides, okay, fine, I'm gonna start a YouTube channel, that could be a whole career that could also make out of them entrepreneurs that can hire 5 other youth that are not getting into corporate South Africa fast enough. And given that corporate South Africa is also as evil as it is, with bosses creating barriers to entry for youth because they're jealous of them, with people bewitching each other's careers and everything, a lot of people therefore only have an option in the online space. And South Africa is refusing people to not only thrive there. When South Africans complain against the mistreatment of their person by the international platform that is America on their social media platforms, the censorship movement, South Africa doesn't do anything to circumvent the issue. And then on top of that, when then people want to go and purchase things online that are South African, they get issues with the corruption happening at the post office, and so their cameras are not arriving on time, and so therefore they're losing content. They're recording on whack of phones that are about to die. You don't even think Uguti scaling is a thing when it's literally a basic economic principle. Sell a thing for an affordable price and you will get a whole bunch of people, millions of people purchasing it, and so therefore that will more than make up for the fact that your price was low. You need to look at the product and the demographic, the market that you are targeting in order for you to set your price, in order to make it feasible. You cannot be selling a product to deal with acne, so therefore adolescents and young adults, you cannot sell it for 300 rands, 400 rands. You cannot. Where are they going to get the money? They're in high school. Some of them are still in university. They are still reliant on parents' salaries, or they're working casual jobs at Diesel and Guess and Pep and Ackermans. Go di molong, go di scam, go scan di cruiser, and you expect me to reka the cream. It's expensive. It's a Olay. Like right now, Olay is busy marketing their vitamin C serum. Yeah, 400 rands to kids. They are grabbing influencers that are just out of high school or beginning of university, and they are using them as the face of their product. So therefore suggesting that when now who is sitting at first year go Wits University, reka first vitamin C serum, yeah, Olay for 400 rand, and then they claim that it's cheap. Cheap. No, not 400. It's 500 and something. It's 400 rands go China. And on go this game 500 and something bucks. When I first year to guy 500 rand and fela go singer and such a noodle go res. This person is eating noodles at Gores, and you expect them to make their skin iridescent and shine and pop. Got something that costs 500 rands. You are literally saying only rich kids. This is what this product is for. So okay, fine. Come on, all of your young people. Babatlang vitamin C. In my previous series, where you can get a cheap serum set, the 3-piece, scale. It's literally, you need to know when to scale, and you also need to know when to sell luxury products. Fine, let the top 1% buy a Ferrari, but do not go on right ahead and sell something that should sell for the price of bread for 500 rands to a market of people that you are obviously advertising to based on who it is that you choose for your model, for your ads, for an inflated price. You cannot sell an entry-level camera, 4K quality for 4,000 rands to vloggers and bloggers in this country and expect them not to cry when they can't get their AliExpress purchase delivered to them on time because the post office is colluding with the freaking government to make sure that South Africans continue to buy South African products only. And so unless a South African business is the one that is purchased from, they're not doing it. Things gotta change. And they're not gonna change until Christ comes back. Literally, it's over. That's the level of corruption in my country. I don't know what's going on in yours, but this is happening in South Africa. And I'm pretty sure it's ubiquitous. These are the issues. God takes care of the widow and the orphan, and since South Africa is currently not taking care of the widow and the orphan, God is going to take the widow and the orphan out of here, ransack the earth for 7 years, come back and reestablish a righteous reign where predatory pricing is not a thing anymore. It is written even in the scriptures that no longer will a person plant, do you understand, and not be able to harvest their own crop. No more working like a dog and not getting paid your day's wages fairly. That's a time that's coming. So all of your wicked business practices, unsavory, evil people that are literally making up 2% of your country, and yet you cater your product offering in your organizations caters to the lay South African on the street, but you hyperinflate the prices. You're about to be moved out the way. Next part.